Patch notes. I'm very excited about this. Let me get OBS out of the way so I can actually see them. But there we go. It's patch notes time. Let's move that a little to the left. There we go. So, they're at it again. They're balancing the game. Really exciting. Let's just jump right into it. I suppose I should talk about some context first. The recent Big Moon Bash was partially overrun by, like, rally a lot because the three beasties that it was themed around, being Diggum, Cheerilee, and Noizard, are all very good for rally teams. So there were a lot of rally teams going around. Lots of Spirit offense. Spirit was kind of overwhelming in the meta. Field effects were all over the place because Demolish, which was added last patch, was kind of crazy. So we're gonna see what they've done to sort of patch that up and make it a little bit less overwhelming and make some other things which have been struggling a bit stronger. First one is on the stream. We have new traits for Supalero. Confident gets +1 body power and +1 body defense boost when tagging in. That, for Supalero, is huge. This beastie desperately needed some, like, more offensive capabilities. It already had Juggle, to be fair. But a 75 base attacking stat is not going to cut it when most things that are viable attackers have, like, 100, 105, 110, or otherwise better ways to boost themselves. Juggle is good and all, but why would you run Juggle Supalero before when you could run Juggle Crabberray or Juggle Masquery? This just... It just is a straight increase. Obviously, it's not going to scale, like, super hard when you get more boosts, because boosts are additive, not multiplicative. But still, this is an immediate upscale to the amount of damage Supalero can do, and probably puts it about on the level of, like, some of those really powerful body beasties on Switchin', which is very exciting. The body defense boost it really didn't need, but, you know, never hurts to have another Castle League counter. Forager. Given in place of Scavenger, restores 50 stamina when tagging out instead of 25. Again, very good. That means this thing is almost never going to go down. If you are running Forager Supalero, it is surviving. It is not wiping during a match unless you get hit with a really powerful spirit attack. That's exciting. I am terrified for what it means for the speedrun, because there are two Supalero we run into, and I think both of them might end up with that. And that's scary. Especially because the one on Dominic, Ruth on Dominic, switches out somewhat often. So we're probably gonna have to make sure we one-shot it. Yeah, geez, that's a huge change for its PvP viability right there. It's always thrived as, like, a defensive supportive beastie. So having this to, you know, like, keep it healthy for a lot longer in the match is going to be real big for helping it do that. And again, this is good for offense. I do not think this makes it, to be clear, a great offensive beastie. It is just now a good offensive beastie, or at least a mediocre offensive beastie, rather than a very subpar one. So good stuff there. New. Thrasher for Maraptor. Plus 50% damage when any beastie on the opponent team is wiped. That is crazy. Given instead of Echo. Echo made sense on Maraptor before the introduction of Quake, when instead it spread damage to both opponents. In general, we try to give beasties a more offense-oriented trait and a more support-oriented trait. However, with splash damage changed to Quake, Echo became more like a support trait, and one which was notably inferior to Glamour. true. So Maraptor was lacking an interesting build variety. The intention of Thrasher is to give Maraptor more of an effective aggressive role option again. Less tested than other changes in this patch. Yeah, I was gonna say, that's very strong. And may require more testing and feedback to solidify. That's big. That's really big. Yeah. Maraptor always felt like it should have an offensive set. But with, like, it has, I think, like, 92 base. Let me look this up. Maraptor, I believe... Let's just check the stats. Beastiepedia, all the way to the down, 105. Yeah, 80, sorry, even lower. Because it's 92 when it's uninvested. It's 87 base body power, 85 base mind power. Again, a little better than the aforementioned Supalero, but still not that strong, all things considered. It's worth noting this is a plus 50%. It is not a times 1.5. So I don't think this is going to... I think, once again, they're doing the right thing and making this an additive rather than a multiplicative boost. So it won't stack crazily with, like, additional boosts, additional power boosts, and other things like Jazz or being at the net. That looks like it's a really good trait, and Maraptor is finally going to have, like, a good offensive presence again. Obviously, it was... I mean, Echo was still not all that great, honestly, from what I recall when it was splash damage rather than Quake. This makes Maraptor a good offensive beastie. That's, like, a lot of damage. Again, sort of the same thing as Supalero in that it's taking its offensive stat and giving it a free boost to sort of make up for it. Very exciting for that. This doesn't affect the speedrun at all. That's just for PvP, and I'm super hyped about it. Slippery. This one was a massive villain of the latest Bash. Just, like, absolutely ridiculous. How good this beastie has been. So, it now deals 25% less damage. This reduces all damage dealt, including via Nettle. That is huge. For some context, Zonk and I built a team in the Bash, which was basically centered around trapping things with Albrax, which I'm sure we'll get to later, and nettling them twice so they can't tag out because you can't click the tag out button while you're tractor beamed. And, like, basically, if you have a beastie at 41 or lower, you are losing a point this turn because we are freeballing. We are nettle freeballing your beastie because Gremler never receives the ball. I am very glad that adjacent allies receiving attacks in their place stayed around because I think that changing this would change Gremler's identity far too much, and I think it's a really creative and cool thing to have in the game. So, like, I'm glad that's still there. But the damage nerf is, like, that's probably better than what a lot of people were thinking, which is, like, what I was thinking it was going to be nerfed to was something like each time this happens, it takes 10 damage or loses 10 stamina. This is, I think, a far better way, because it is inherently a very supportive trait, so having it not be able to be offensive while Slippery is, you know, active, I think improves it greatly. This is a massive nerf. It needed a big nerf. I think this is what it needed, and I don't think Gremler strategies are going to be dead, but they are not going to be oppressive anymore. I think they might end up being kind of mediocre, but there is obviously still, you can still nettle free ball when something's at 30 or less. So that's worth noting. It's still Slippery. It's still very good. Yeah. Gremler has strong offensive potential, which they can invest in heavily since Slippery makes their defense stats irrelevant. True. Except for, you know, dealing with Zephyrs with Maverick and Illigus with Precise. Slippery also guarantees the option to double use high-value support plays, Nettle or Provoke. This trait adjustment means Gremler gets less free value from this easy utility. Yup, it got a whole lot of that before, but still can function as an annoying and sustainable free field presence as intended. Yeah, this... fantastic nerf. Fantastic nerf. We will see how it shakes out for the meta. I think Gremler is now definitely at least like a 4 out of 5 Beastie rather than a 5.5 out of 5. But yeah, good change there. Also, since that's no longer offensive, clearly, Adaptation copies their allies trait when they tag in. This looks real interesting. Given as a recessive trait, so it'll always have Slippery as a wild beastie. Since Slippery now reduces its damage output and has basically always obsoleted their defensive stat spread, we wanted to give them an alternative mode which allows them to actually leverage their strats and offense potential. Y'all, I think I know what team I'm building first. I might know what team I'm building first. There's this wonderful little new trait that was added to a beastie with Tactical Pass right here. And having Gremler be able to use Thrasher would be kind of crazy. I would not be surprised if this gets a significant nerf, especially considering this being added. Like, if there are ways to copy this, that's crazy. Yeah. Since Slippery now reduces Gremler's damage output and has basically always obsoleted their defensive stat spread, we want to give them an alternative mode which allows them to actually leverage their stats and offensive potential. It is worth noting, Gremler is a very big glass cannon. So it's going to put on a lot of hurt. It is going to do a lot of damage. It has, you know, it still has good spirit defense, and I think, is it respectable body defense? Or is it respectable mind defense? At least for, like, an offensive beastie. Where are we? 89. 70 body defense, 80 spirit defense, 45 mind defense. Yeah, so now you could do a whole lot with this. I think it's awesome that this exists because, like, mimicry on Squimmage is interesting at all, but not really all that good. This is, like, a much cooler version of that, I think, personally. Yeah, like, offensive traits for Gremler, kind of huge. Because, I mean, now you can take any offensive trait in the game. You could run Gremler next to Delusia on Mist, and neither of your beasties will take dread damage. That's kinda wild. That's kinda wild. There's a whole lot that could be said about this one. Oh gosh. What else is gonna happen with this one? Yeah, Gremler could get... There's a whole lot of stuff Gremler could get, and I think, to be fair, Slippery is probably still going to be its main playstyle. I think there are some other things it could use. I'd be interested to see what happens with, like, putting it next to Platian and giving it Vicious, because it has, I think, it has Mind Field, it might have Corner Shot, I'm not sure. Don't put it next to Shloom. That's a bad idea. Scrolling through the list. What else do we have? Put it next to a Boldler and give it Armored, honestly. Daredillo and give it Acrobat. There's some interesting stuff out there. Put it next to a Zyphosaur and give it Bunker. I mean, there's defensive capabilities here as well as offensive. Put it next to a Plumask and give it Stagecraft. That's an interesting one. You have two beasties, and if they're both at 67 or higher, they cannot go down this turn. Well, 75, because you need to take the dread damage afterward. This is super cool. There's a whole lot to get into there, and like makes Gremler, which was already like a super deep beastie, also have way more depth. For some behind the scenes stuff, I've been like prepping some draft league stuff, putting out like a PvP based survey to see like, okay, how do you think beasties are? This is real interesting for that, and I think Gremler has so many options now in like a draft format, which I'm really excited about. Anyway, moving on. Rumpus. Now triggers after every offense and defense turn, not just after offense. Good buff. Not much to add there. Masquerie, we haven't seen all that much recently. Hopra's been running high spirits because it's so good at offense, so this makes Hopra better, to be clear. Hopra was already like a 5 out of 5 beastie, and now it has a buff. We will see how that goes. But I don't think that makes Hopra broken. I just think it's very good and incredibly like good glue for teams. Sky Blue in chat says Axolotl Iron Man is going to be the MVP even more. True. Super fun, not much to say there. Launcher. Always target straight ahead effect has been adjusted to prioritize over all sources of redirection. Does this mean High Slime is getting the same thing? High Slime might get it too. High Slime might get it too. This is interesting. Riplash is getting buffed. Riplash was another beastie that was already kind of a 5 out of 5 with just how versatile it is. This is crazy. This is really good. To be fair, this does remove one strategy, which was launcher lock target, which I think was very strong. But at the same time, that means you're using another support play to buff it. So it's going to be real powerful. Because, I mean, now it's precise as well. Now it's precise. We can run Adaptation Gremler next to Launcher Riplash and use Tool. 95 base mind power move, by the way. Always straight ahead. Does not use Tool's targeting anymore. As far as I am aware. That's crazy. Agile. Nerfed. No longer confers a bonus for play effects with if ball is hittable condition, as in juggle and set. That's a big nerf to Crab. A big nerf to Crab that was very needed. Juggle dive is still going to be very good. But, that's a good nerf. I think Juggle Crab was like the premier body attacker in the game. Like even I think more threatening than Castle Elite in most situations, just because you tag it in on a hit that it can take. You juggle twice and you dive. That's 120 base power move, and you blow something up. Crazy stuff. Glad to see this nerf. Not too much to add there. I don't think this kills Crab's viability. It does make it, you know, again, more of a 4 out of 5 than a 5 out of 5, probably. But that's good. I think most beasties should be 4 out of 5s. If they're 5 out of 5s, it's because they're versatile, not because they're broken. Crab was a little bit broken. Flee. Triggers starting on 50 stamina rather than 49. Okay. Sure. Sure. Triggers starting on 50 stamina rather than 49. I guess that means that if you take a grinder, now you flee, which is interesting, I suppose. Flow. New effect. While on the field with rhythm, opponents can't give their allies any bad feelings. Okay. That's a lot. Flow has been overshadowed by Welcoming because Welcoming is very good. I think this is a big change. Flow was already very good. People didn't use it. But Flow is already very good. Flow plus demanding set? No, it is specifically opponents can't give their allies any bad feelings. I suppose this means, I think the thing about this is, actually, now that I look at it, is there are already a lot of bad feelings which were already prevented by Rhythm. So I guess this doesn't change that much. I guess what it means is it probably prevents Shook. It probably prevents Angry. Angry is the big one. I think Shook, Tender, and Angry are the three that are there. Nervous and Sweaty were already prevented by Rhythm. Shook was not. That's scary. I don't think it's going to be like super broken, but more research required. Flow has been in a weird spot with a trait that's pretty good and doesn't activate it very often, has generally been overshadowed by Welcoming. True. We want to give Bongus more of an edge with their default trait. Fair. We're aware this change may enable some crazy strategies, and we haven't evaluated its full potential yet, so we'd invite players to theorycraft on this one and help it figure out if it's too much or not. Yeah, that one's going to be an interesting one to theorycraft, for sure. Oh, its opponents can't give their allies any bad feelings. Okay, hold on. Yes, good point, Sky Blue. So Bongus can be blocked now. I don't think that changes the speedrun at all, because I think that it still counts as its own ally in the rowdy fight. But opponents can't give their allies any bad feelings, so Bongus can't be blocked. Bongus can be blocked now, so it's a little less offensive than it was before. I think that's actually kind of a nerf to the never-seen offensive Bongus. Again, at 75 body power is not really much. It did have Vigor Beam, so like there was a little bit of potential there, but I think this makes Bongus like fully supportive. Precise. Give it to Conjar as a recessive trait. I love to see it. What I am scared about is that Conjar gets Eruption. So that one's going to be interesting. Conjar with Eruption, Precise Eruption is kind of crazy. But I am glad to see Precise given more users because Redirection has been kind of crazy. Conjar doesn't always really like having Cryptic. Cryptic kind of does nothing a lot of the time. It does, to be fair, do a lot against Challenge and Spitball, which are very prominent in the meta. And likes having it for those, because Conjar is quite, you know, supportive by nature. This makes offensive Conjar better. Big fan of that. New plays. Exert. Spirit Attack, 65 power. User feels 1 tough and 2 sweaty. Huh. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. No, it's a good serve. It's a good spirit serve. Daredillo and Apostle get it by level up. That tracks. Those are the two I would expect to get this. Via Friendship, Supalero, Grisada, Skiffrig, Squimmage. Fun. Zyphosaur. Guys, you have another way to make your Zyphosaur tough. And Yamith. Yamith appreciates that a lot, actually. Skiffrig, Squimmage, Squimmage likes this. The 2 sweaty, I don't know if the 2 sweaty is really necessary. I'll be perfectly honest. I think that gives it a downside to what would otherwise be like a very good move, but the thing is it's still only 65 power. I don't know. I don't know if it needs the 2 sweaty. It might just need it might just need 1 sweaty. But that's an interesting one. Attack combines well with some other spirit options and gives spirit-focused offensive teams a unique serving option that fits their unique strengths. I think ones I'm excited about this for... Man, I'd be more excited for Grisada if it was in the front row as well. Yeah, 2 sweaty is a lot. That means you're taking 20 damage the first turn, 30 damage the next turn. That's a lot more than 10 damage the first turn, 20 damage the second turn. I mean, I don't know how to feel about this one. I think we're just going to have to see it in action. Echo Strike. Mind Attack 70 power. Sets target's trait to user's trait. So it's like Overwrite. But you can give something Stagecraft or Stirring with Plumask. Via Friendship. Platypulse. That's interesting. Platypulse can now give something Neural Net. That's crazy. That's really wild. That's really wild. Mystic will almost never use this move. Actually, maybe will. It's like there's a whole lot more trait disruption with this being on a bunch of beasties now. Mystic, Trat, yeah, of course Trat gets this. Magpike, and thus Maraptor as well. I miss Maraptor here. I don't, to be fair, think Maraptor really wants... Oh, Maraptor actually really likes this. Hold on. Because Maraptor can give Clamor to something and thus basically provoke the beastie next to them. That's like a combination Scream Spitball, but weird. That's kind of cool. Magpike can kind of destroy someone by giving them Crafty, because a lot of moves don't care about the current Crafty. Bendiva will probably not use this aside from maybe on Majesty teams, and even then it's going to use Sneak Attack or Spitball as it serves, so I don't think it cares. Trat might use this. Again, Mystic will use this on Mind teams or Mind Spirit teams, things that don't have a body attacker. Platypulse, I think, is the interesting one here. I'm super excited to see that. Platypulse has, like, a modicum. Modicum, is that the word? Platypulse has a lot of good serving moves. We'll see. This and Freeze Ray, or like Stare Down on the same... This and Stare Down on Platypulse or Plation. Plation also gets it too, I would assume. Plation will never use this move. You do not want to give anything precise or vicious. Or, sorry, charge or vicious. But Platypulse loves this. Like... Use Echo Strike into Stare Down and then just, like, blow something up. That's kind of crazy. Finisher. Updated text to reflect damage bonus starting on 50 stamina. Yeah, that's fine. Demolish. 80 power from 70. No longer gets a power bonus when it clears field effects. Good. Demolish plus Dreadful Mist, Demolish plus Rhythm, Demolish plus Rally were all ridiculous in the latest bash. Castle Elite was everywhere spamming this thing. I like this change because it means Castle Elite can still have it. And I think Castle Elite does appreciate having a utility move like this. Obviously, you know, it's decent damage. It's weaker than Thump still, which is good. It's honestly now like the best offensive option, the best damage dealing option for stuff like Trat now as well, which is super fun. Good for Demolipede as well. Yeah, that's interesting. I've just seen the next one. Rocket always goes where it's targeted. That's cool for PvP. I like seeing it. I like seeing more moves that deal with redirection, because redirection is one of the strongest things in the game. Speedrunning against Dominic and Gene just got a lot harder. Specifically Axolotl, I think, because we relied a fair bit on using Mighty Yell against Dominic, as well as Dramatic Exit, to make sure Surgus didn't take Rocket. That's gone now. That beautiful new Axolotl route I had is not looking great. So from a speedrunning perspective, not happy about that one. We'll see if we can play around it, but not happy about that one. Okay, moving on. Cook, down to 55 power from 60. Yeah, sure, it was pretty dang good. Grit, down to 60 power from 65. Good. Finally a Grit power nerf. This thing was crazy. Scream, 90 power from 95. That's fine, I guess. That really matters for, like, Fruitfolks and Plumask. Crozata, I guess, as well. I should scroll down a little bit so you can actually see it. Yeah, the Noisy wasn't really very much of a downside in most situations. So I think that's a fair nerf to give to it. Contest can now only be used at the net. That was a good suggestion from people. Circus is still a ridiculous 50-50 causer, but now it can't serve with this. One of the big issues, I think, with Circus and Rally was that it was doing 50 plus with Condensed on serve. 50 plus on a serve is a lot. So, glad to see that gone. Thriller, 65 power from 60. Good change for a never used move. Makes it more usable in like casual play and expeditions, which I think is good. Fruitfolks actually runs this over Scream now. Aside from, you know, the fact that it doesn't work in Dread, that's good. Relentless, 70 power from 50 and can now use when wiped. That's wild. That's crazy. That's really cool. I love seeing more moves that enable beasties to stay on the field while wiped. Like, I always loved, like, telekinesis, I loved steal, like, things that meant that if you have a wiped beastie, you aren't totally screwed. Relentless getting a buff is, like, that's real exciting. That's real exciting. Because this move always felt like it should have a use in PvP, but it was just so weak that it wasn't worth it over other options. This is, like, worth it on, like, Hyper Spike Yamith now. That's exciting. Challenge! No longer Spitball. Hallelujah. Also not Hallelujah. It was good to have multiple options like this for the game, but Challenge was just an objectively better Spitball at almost every turn. So I think I'm glad to see that. Up to 95 power from 85. A posture just got scary. Our experimental change to Challenge to make the target angry was effective at giving Spirit Offense better disruption options, but at too great a cost. Yeah, fair. Offered too much value and interaction potential and became a very centralizing play. True, that bolstered the effectiveness of rally teams. In the past, players have voiced that they felt Spirit and Rally offense was lacking in strong disruption options. This experiment has showed us that Spirit probably doesn't need to have the best disruption options in addition to its offensive potential. Very true. Okay. Doze. New effect. Feel 2 wiped. Okay. Doze was crazy. Doze was everywhere in PvP. Does this mean it doesn't heal you anymore? I think this means it doesn't heal you anymore. That's a massive nerf. It does mean that I think as intended, you now kind of actually have to take the beastie off the field. What happens is, instead of healing immediately, you will heal in a couple turns when you recover from wiped, but you need to go on the bench. That's a massive nerf, which was very needed, I think, especially on things like Doze Demolipede was kind of crazy. So basically, if you Doze, you can't run Doze on 4 or 5 beasties anymore. Because you need different plays on your team. You can't just have Doze install to, like, stall forever, which is kind of what it did before. I hope this is still usable in Iron Man, because you're not reducing the stamina to 0. Because I think that not having it usable in Iron Man would be a little sad. Does Orgella get Doze? If Orgella gets Doze, that's really cool, because now you're wiped, except no, you're actually just shook. So Orgella just became the best Doze user, which is super fun. If it has Doze. I think it has Doze. Someone check if Orgella has Doze for me. Anyway, good change, good change. Massive nerf. Doze is going to be a lot less strong. This is, I think, actually a big nerf to Albrax, which is good, because Albrax needed a nerf. And you could just Doze and leave Tractor Beam on the field, which I think was crazy. You can't do that anymore. Notably, again, if I didn't emphasize this earlier, it does not reduce your stamina. It does not reduce or increase your stamina, so if you use this at 10 stamina, you're still at 10 stamina. But when you recover from wiped, you'll be at 100, because that's what recovering from wiped is, if I recall. You can still receive, if you use Doze super early, you can still receive. This synergizes actually really interestingly with Heliath and Lunaptra's abilities. Because if it works how I think it does, you can still receive balls while you're wiped, you can just only free ball. I take that back, it doesn't synergize with them at all, because if it receives the ball, then if the beastie who just used Doze receives the ball, then obviously they can only free ball, and things with Avenger and Determination do not in fact have steal. But either way, that was a cool thought. Torch Pass lowers the user's max stamina by 10. So if you Torch Pass, you now come back at 90 rather than 100. I think that's good. All right. Okay. Good nerfs to stall strategies, because stall and control were kind of really, really strong lately. I think these are both good changes. We'll see how they play out again. There's going to be a whole bunch of experimental testing. We'll see how it goes. Beastie changes. Calarva, Warmask, and Plumask. Removed, challenge, super commit, sneak attack, call out, teleport, and doze. Fair. It had sneak. Plumask had sneak? Yeah, okay. Has been with us for a very long time, and from very early on in development was given new plays frequently as we added them. They were long overdue for a re-examination for what was actually uniquely relevant to them. That's fair. I always looked at this beastie and said, that has so many plays. Okay. Cool to see that. Well, cool to see that. A little bit sad, because I think Plumask having all of these things was really cool and made it awesome and incredibly versatile, and it's now obviously slightly less so. But I think that some of these, yeah, don't really make sense flavor-wise to have on them. So that's fine. That's fine. I think most of these were friendship moves. So again, yeah, good stuff. Platena, Platypulse, Plation, removed prepared attack. The only one that cares about this at all is Plation, and I still don't think it used that, because again, as I mentioned earlier, these have far better search. Noizard, removed forward pass. Continued to dominate usage since we reduced its defensive capabilities. Although this play isn't their flashiest option, it has enabled Noizard to serve a critical function as a support for hyper-offensive partners. Removing this passing option pigeonholes them more into their intended disruption role. We're curious to step back and assess their power level after this change, along with the various nerfs made to Spirit Offense that tends to pair with them. Further nerfs may be made if this hasn't pushed them far enough. That's huge. That is massive. That is really, really big. That's really big. Maraptor now has a much stronger niche as the Clamor user with a boosting move, and it still only works for mine teams. Yeah, that is what is going to make Noizard not overwhelming, I think, because the ability to give its ally another 50% damage was ridiculously strong. Like, you just move it, you just tag in, you forward pass and deal a whole bunch of damage, and you get to use a supporting move. Now you can't increase damage and also use a supporting move, which I think was what made Noizard so good, because on Spirit teams especially, you click forward pass rally. You just tag in Clamor Noizard, you click forward pass rally, and you blow something up with a now doubly boosted move. That's really good. That's a really good change. Noizard, I think it is super cool as a disruption beastie. I think this makes it a lot more manageable. Obviously, redirection is still good, but we've seen a whole bunch of changes that I think greatly improve its place in the meta in terms of, you know, not having it be utterly overwhelming. We've seen a new precise user, a couple moves that get precise. Yeah, good stuff. Gasper, Whisper, Mystic, removed prepared attack. Yeah, that's fine. Our Mantis gets sneak attack! Our Mantis gets sneak attack! Armantis gets sneak attack! Yes! Yes! Yes, this is so deserved, and also Dominic is going to be terrifying because Bo is absolutely going to receive this and immediately start throwing it at us on every serve. And oh god. Oh, I hope that Bo still has Heartbreaker. I really hope that Bo still has Heartbreaker, but that thing does use Monster Block, and I am not excited for... I am not excited for the reroutes. If Bo gets Sneak Attack. Greg, if you ever watch this, I am begging you, please leave Bo with Heartbreaker as its serving option. Please. Dominic already has 2 beasties with forward pass, and I think that's far better than... Please, Greg. Oh, I'm so excited for PvP and so terrified for speedruns with this one. Oh, man. Okay. Okay, that was a lot of emotions. Monster Block now gets way better. I don't think Monster Block saw really any use compared to Power Forward, and Power Forward didn't see any use compared to, you know, other beasties that do sort of the same things better. Armantis just got a wild buff. That's big. That's big. I am excited about that. Asterisk. Grisada gets challenge and loses super commit. Yeah, that's fine. Slightly less damage on challenge, which I think is okay, because Grisada had pretty dang good spirit attack. I think challenge makes more sense flavor-wise. If you have never watched a video of a gelada before, go watch a video of a gelada. Those things are cool. And super commit, it kinda, I think... It's nice to be able to use challenge, use its main, like, serving move and then tag out. That's good. Hydrome! Hydrome! Hydrome body power upscale! I was literally just building a Vigor Beam team with Hydrome, and now it gets 85 instead of 75. Let's go! This thing never ran body moves. So super excited to see it have those now. Gets Rocket as well, which is super interesting. Torpor Rocket, y'all. Torpor Rocket. Mermaid, if you're asking about the Grisada thing with another Dominic thing, that one would be Elena only, and I don't think that it's getting challenge over Raw Fury. Do you think Jean's Hydrome is gonna have Rocket now? I think that thing was a lot more threatening with Telekinesis Rainbow, which is what it already had, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's gonna get Rocket. I mean, Jean already has Rocket on his team. It's on the Beetleback. So, like, I don't think it needs it. I'm super excited for what that means for PvP Hydrome. Heliath gains Thriller, loses Challenge. Thriller is slightly more damage, but doesn't work in Dread. That's fine, I guess. Oh, Misty worried about not being able to redirect. Yeah, that's fair. We'll see how that goes, I guess. Maraptor! Slight defense downscale, slight offense upscale. So those base stats I said, now 2 higher on the attacking end. So I think this gets to be more of an offensive Clamor Beastie. I think this is super interesting because it can, like, Clamor Net Rush into, like, Stomp or something is super interesting now. You set up Drum with something else, like a Tort Anchor. Oh, there's an interesting line here. You can run, like, Maraptor next... If you run a Tort Anchor next to something, you serve with Shanty. You tag in Maraptor and use, like, Net Rush, Volley, Stomp. That's a fun line. But either way, slight buffs to its attacking stats, which I think is good because, again, it feels like it should be able to be offensive. Obviously, with the new trait, it's going to be able to be more offensive. Also makes Clamor slightly worse, which I think is good. Other fixes and changes. Significantly optimize the map menu, particularly when zoomed out. That'll be helpful for speedruns, I suppose. Re-increase the text size for the match scheduled UI event. Cool. Fixed collision on large trees in Mythwood. I've been telling them about that for ages. Glad to see that finally fixed. Fixed an issue where editing a saved team would list their equipped plays twice in the list of available plays. I did notice that. That explains why that happened. So, a few small bug fixes there, basically. Might be some other insignificant new things floating around, since this is a stripped-down version of next week's update. Full patch notes on new features will be revealed when the update is ready. Yes, very excited about that. Overall, awesome patch. Yep. They've done it again. They've done it again. They've made a 10 out of 10 patch again. They can't keep getting away with it. They can't keep getting away with it. Anyway, super excited. That's all I have for today. Thank you for watching.